Hello, this is Chris from PC Gamer, and welcome to No Trace, a Dishonored diary series where I'm trying to make every assassination in the game look like an accident or a cock-up, or basically do whatever I can to erase every sign of Corvo's direct involvement in all of these sort of very convenient deaths that appear to be happening around the city. Now, if you've played the game, you'll know this is the kind of big climactic assassination of Corvo's revenge campaign, going after Hiram Burrow, the Lord Regent, the dictator who's installed himself and driven Dunwall into the ground. This is the tower, what used to be the palace, the kind of used to be the seat of the Empire, and is now this kind of twisted metal citadel. Climbing this waterlock is going to be the first challenge, to get up to the citadel, but really all I'm going to try and do in the first part of this mission is to get inside without being seen, which is relatively straightforward actually, but it takes a bit of creative climbing. Now, I've had some questions about sort of how much I sort of pre-plan these playthroughs, and the answer is a lot. Like, I've played somewhere approaching 50 or 60 hours of Dishonored now on various different kinds of playthrough, and these approaches are the result of quite a lot of planning in most cases, just to try and find ways of completing each of these missions that are original, but are also sort of adhere to this extra set of rules I've given myself, which include never being able to successfully jump on a pipe the first time. As fans of the series will have noticed. Anyway, let's blink up here, and we're in. Now, the interesting thing about this is, I don't know if you remember, the very first Dishonored video I did for Gamer was a 3 different ways of playing the game, including using no magic whatsoever. And I've actually tried this at home in a separate playthrough, and this point is the first time in the game you have to use blink. There's as far as I can tell, no way up the waterlock. You can't go around it, you can't get into that upper vent without blink, so basically this is the point where you're kind of screwed if you want to try and play a Corvo who never uses magic, which is a shame really, because otherwise it's a lot of fun. Now, there's a easier way onto the outside from here, but this way, sort of narrowly avoiding this arc pylon, gets me some Piero's remedy, which I need a lot. I've basically spent every single penny I've earned, and that's not a huge amount because I'm not doing very much thieving, on remedy to keep my mana supplies topped up. I don't really need gadgets, I don't really need upgrades, I have no use of bone charms even really, so it's all about being able to use as many powers as I can. Which is also why I'm avoiding blinking unless I need to, because that way I avoid blinking too quickly and eating into my regenerating reserve. By getting up here fast, I've avoided this guard, who is on his busy patrol of, well, I suppose it's a busy patrol. I suppose it's an important place to be patrolling, he's just bad at it. I really like the skyline, by the way. You notice the clock tower over there is actually near where Lady Boar's party takes place, and there's the prison, which I escaped from in the first episode by pretending the doors blow up by themselves. So, yeah, and as we come in to the palace itself, getting across this courtyard looks like it should be difficult, but it isn't. There's searchlights and watchtowers and tall boys and walls of light and guards everywhere, but due to Corvo's ability to basically tightrope walk across incredibly narrow fences, it's trivially straightforward, which is something of an anticlimax. And along this wall, and into the bushes where I will be safe. I don't actually know if bushes conceal you in Dishonored. I've been playing a load of Far Cry 3, and I think that's why I decided that I had to hide in this bush. There is, however, a very good reason not to hide in that bush over there, which you'll see in a second. And one of the things I've picked up on, and actually one of the great things about replaying this game, is you pick up on a bunch of the little things the designers have done to kind of make it more difficult as it gets, as it progresses, even with some of the same mechanics. You notice this guard is a good example of that, as is the next guard we're going to encounter. So here he comes, going for a piss in the bushes, which is why I'm not squatting there, because not only would I get seen, but I would get a mask full of wee, so that's useful. But he turns around, you think, oh, I can go now, but no, because he turns around again to adjust his balls. There he goes, big old adjust. Good for him, and back grumbling about the stupid captain. So that little, I think, bait and switch with the guard turning and then turning back and then turning again is, I think, deliberate. I think it's a way of kind of trying to catch players out. I hope so anyway, otherwise I'm just talking nonsense. And there is no precedent for that. Now, if I was the Lord Regent or a dictator of almost any kind in a game world where I was being stalked by a magic assassin, I would just make sure all the walls were finished. I wouldn't let people stop building a wall at 85% and then just leave a massive panel missing. I would avoid littering the environments that I occupied with convenient scaffolding, say, or big metal chandeliers or ledges. I'd sand everything down until it was perfectly smooth and then hide in the top room of a tower, which is almost what the Lord Regent manages to do, but unfortunately he failed, you know, Evil Lair Design 101 and has given me a pretty easy route directly into the tower itself. As I've said before, that Dishonored kind of becomes easy when you realise that almost every stealth challenge can be circumvented by climbing. Height is overpowered, as I think I've said before, but here I am on a ledge. If anyone was looking at the tower itself, they'd see a man in a cape with a mask on, crawling in perfect illumination across the edge of the building. But no, that guy's more interested in going off and getting hammered, and I am in the tower. Now, this assassination attempt, or this accident, is going to depend very much on the narrative of what happens in the tower. And having played it a few times, there's specific things that happen. You'll hear a conversation now between the Lord Regent on this screen and General Tobias. The Lord Regent, because the alarm hasn't been raised outside, is going to come downstairs and go to his bedroom, which is up there. I could just get in there and kill him if I wanted to, but that's not how we're going to play it. However, when he gets about to a certain point downstairs, he'll notice that a wall of light has been deactivated. There's a guard coming up from the downstairs carrying a canister of volatile whale oil, who is actually, you'll see him in a second, there he is, whose job it is to kind of replace the whale oil canister and get the wall of light working again. This guy is the key to my plan. He is my accident waiting to happen. And that means I need to steer him slightly, but not hugely, off course, and I need people to see me do it. So here we go. Into his brain. Right, you notice he drops the canister every time he picks it up. So that guy has seen him clumsily drop this explosive canister of whale oil. And he's not going to be the only one. This was pretty close, actually. I didn't think I was going to be able to pull this off. But that guy's looking directly at him. That guy's looking directly at him. But luckily he's so distracted by this stumbling idiot with a can of whale oil that he doesn't notice me jump back in his brain and continue. Now, the revving the possession like a tiny motorbike is because there's a point at the end of the animation when you're allowed to possess someone again, and I'm trying to get that as soon as possible rather than try and wait like I did with Sokolov earlier in the series. But it does look silly. Vroom! Into your brain. So anyway, right, the idea here is I've steered him slightly off course, so rather than going to the wall of light, he's going the long way to the wall of light, which will take him past this door, which I think should be where the Lord Regent is about to appear, but I need to get into this alcove to wait. So as he's disorientated and stumbling, pick up stop time, wait a second, oh, he's kicked it, that's not going to help. Stop time, fire the shot heard around the world, or hopefully nowhere, and hide in a cupboard. And wait for it. I don't know if you heard that low thud, it's another disappointingly small explosion, but the moment time resumed, the bullet, which hopefully no one would have seen or heard, or anyone who did will have died, hit the whale oil canister, the whale oil canister exploded, the Lord Regent was killed due to the ineptitude of a guard carrying a whale oil canister and repeatedly dropping it. All the guards come running, I use stop time to be nowhere near the scene of the crime by the time any of them arrive, and that is the Lord Regent toppled with no traces left. Phew. I am glad that worked. Now to get out. The easiest way out is through the Lord Regent's bedroom, but that entire upper floor is basically a no-go at the moment. At this point I thought maybe getting into one of the maids would help, but these people move incredibly slowly. So she was a bit of a waste actually. I should have left her where she was. But I suppose it sets a precedent for maybe there's a bit of dysentery going around. That would explain the amount of vomiting and stumbling about that's happening. Or everyone is just hungover, maybe. Either way, you'll notice that most of the guards have gone onto a patrol pattern. There's General Tobias, which shows that they haven't detected me, which is great. I've noticed one thing in the game is if you engineer a violent death for anyone, even if it's not obvious that you did it, the way the guard barks work basically just assume that an assassin was involved, which is a shame for this series, but there's really nothing I can do about it. It's the dialogue that was written. Oh, that was close, and out. I should have really possessed that dog because they can sprint, but, you know, I will take my relatively smooth assassinations where I can get them. I appreciate that leaving the way I came in is a little boring, but it's secure. And that is that, really, for the conspiracy to overthrow the Empress. We've seen men eaten by rats, fall downstairs, women run into walls of light even, etc. And I'm pretty much done, which is great. Which kind of brings me to my next point, but we'll get to that in a second. I think I'm just about to check the journal, because I actually didn't believe that had worked for a while. But, nope. Big red X says Hiram Burrows is dead, and I've just got to get out. Which is easy enough. Thanks to the magic of vents. JC Denton approved. Right, which brings me to, I guess, the bad news, which is that this is going to be the last episode of No Trace. I've thought about it a lot. I've really enjoyed doing this series, but if you played the game, you'll know that the tone changes quite dramatically after this. It's not the end of the game, even though it's the sort of climactic assassination. And the missions that follow this really don't support this format. I wish they did, and I can think of ways of trying them, but there's a few set pieces in particular that I can't really do without it either being boring to watch or just following what the game already tells you to do, which is itself boring to watch. So I'm going to draw it to close here. This is going to be the conclusion to No Trace. But as I said, I have really enjoyed doing it, and we're going to think about other games we might be able to do things like this with. And if you've enjoyed this series, let us know, and we'll sort of see if we can do more of these diaries and more of these kind of creative playthroughs of games. And I think more broadly, like, the thing I would like people to think about is the fact that the reason this is possible with Dishonored is because Dishonored trusts a player with a load of power and a load of control. And that's important. That's what's cool about games, and that's what we should be celebrating, and being able to do these diary series is just a way of celebrating that. So if you've enjoyed this series, and if you like games like this, make videos like this and share them and tell people about them, because that's how people realize that if you want to see that these games are worth making, basically. They might not demo as well as a Call of Duty, but you can create long-lasting stuff like this out of them, and that's pretty important. Anyway, thank you for watching, and to finish off, I figured I'd finally show the stats screen for the end of the mission. But this has been a long series, so I figured we'd be better off making my own. Enjoy.
Is it all done? You ready to go back to the Hound Pits? Thanks to you, Corvo. All right, let's go.